Yo, everybody.
Hi, welcome back to the Justice and Faith Show. I hope everyone had a good week, and we're back. Why are you laughing?
Because you're such an eager beaver, and because of the way that the topic's set up. Because I've never seen you just pushing buttons and not even care about what I'm starting at.
Anyway,
you jump seasons and everything. I didn't even consult the Justice and Faith show, not the Faith show with Justice.
Okay, fine. You want to take the lead? Go
No,
ahead.
this is your topic. You decide on that, but I'm talking about you pushing all the buttons. You don't care about me. I might as well get out the frame.
So today we're talking about the topic, did I marry a stranger? We want to talk about why it's important and why we feel it's important to really get to know your spouse. Because apparently we're still working on that. So anyway, we want to say why it's important to know everything. So like not just the basic stuff that you know about your babysitter or the person down the street, your neighbor, whatever. You need to know everything from their hopes, their dreams, what annoys them, what their habits are, their past, and then obviously where they see their future going so that you can kind of work to get there together. So that's what we're going to talk about. Okay, first things first. Do we know each other?
Yes, we know each other a lot better than we did. But just a caveat on that, this is something that we disagree on. I believe that before people get married, there are certain things that they should do in regards to living together and things like that. That's my personal opinion. Because once you marry someone, it's supposed to be a forever thing. Not knowing certain stuff and habits, these annoyances and things like that, some things are deal breakers and you're not going to know this during dating. So I think it's important to, maybe spend a few nights or maybe spend a weekend or take time to really know how this person lives and interacts, go places with this individual, ask them questions about work, ask them how they interact with their co-workers and things like that, because it tells you certain stuff. Ask them about politics, religion, how they feel about children. There's a lot of things that people tend to just kind of glaze over, and then you get married, then you're like, wait a minute, this is a problem. So it's very important to ask these questions during the dating phase and understand that if something's a deal breaker for you now, it likely is going to be a deal breaker for you later. So it gives you a chance to be able to kind of sift through. One of the things, because you kind of wrote this down, is about my past. I'm very transparent. Put everything on the table. And the reason why I'm that way is because if I was dating and I said, this is what I've done, this is my past, it has definitely caused me a lot of grief in the past. But what it also does is for you to say, I know exactly where you come from, what you've done, and you have every right to walk away because you can't deal with it. You can't handle it. It's a deal breaker for you. This, whatever the case may be. And I'm perfectly fine with that because I understand that if somebody else outlines certain things, I'm just like, you know what? I just don't believe that in the long run, these things are going to be something that I can just work through. And it's going to continue to cause problems. So knowing your significant other, your spouse, knowing their past, knowing where they come from is of the utmost importance before you get married. A lot of people avoid the skeletons and stuff because you don't want to lose that person. You don't want to scare them away. But I think that it's unfair if you don't let people in on stuff because usually this stuff comes out later. 10 years down the line, if you found out I was married, what about that? What if I got married, 2 years before we got married, and 10 years into our marriage, you found out I was actually married before for a year? Not engaged, not play married, didn't have a wifey. I was actually legally married. How would that make you feel?
Confused.
See that long. Why would you feel confused?
Because I just wouldn't know why you kept it from me.
Why do people keep most things from other people?
I don't know. They're embarrassed about it or ashamed about it or whatever. Yeah,
embarrassed, shamed. And once again, like if I told you I was married before, you might have not wanted to be my second marriage. You might not have wanted to compete with her. You might say, well, what made you marry her?
Yeah, I can compete with your first wife, though.
You can beat her. She's my first wife, not mine.
But anyway, so yeah, I agree to a certain point, but then I disagree about some things because some things I do believe are things that are only for marriage. Like, because you didn't outright say it, but you believe that people should know each other physically.
Oh no, I didn't
no?
say no. I didn't say that. Me personally, I think it's helpful, but I don't think that the sex and like on that physical intimacy is something that necessarily needs to happen. What I think needs to happen is knowing how a person lives.
Okay.
Like the sex,
All right.
the sex part of things, you can grow and you can learn, you can talk, you can explore. That can grow.
And that can be helped if you do everything else that we're going to talk about. If you know the person.
Yeah, sex is one of those things where it's like if you have no background, if you guys haven't actually shared that, that's not necessarily a deal breaker. Because usually you can work your way out and learn through it. Like I don't know personally because but yeah, usually I believe that you could work yourself through that once you start learning and knowing the other person. So yeah, but living together, at least living together, not like like being able to understand how a person lives and not scathing over things. If a person's really messy, really dirty, they have a dirty toilet. If you have a dirty toilet or a dirty stove, I would never date you. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what you smell like. I don't care what your body's like. You're done. You're done. It's over with me. And some people are like, man, that's nope. Because I'm like, if you keep a dirty house, if you don't wash your tub and your toilet and your stove and stuff like that, then to me, I feel like you're dirty. I feel like you don't wash your butt. I feel like you don't take care of your lady parts. I just no. For the same thing for men. So when I lived alone, I kept my stuff a certain way. Women thought women lived with me because they said, "Who decorated? Who did this?" I'm like, "It's me," because I care. Mm-hmm. So
okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, cool. So do you feel like knowing me or like okay? So this time around, since we got remarried,
yeah.
You know me a lot more because I feel like I know you a lot more. Is that a true statement?
You want to know what's funny about that? And then I realized I think I'm a lot more, which is funny because I just talked about transparency. I wasn't as transparent about my pain in our marriage the first time because I didn't think it really mattered. Like I didn't go to the micro level of why I feel the way that I feel with a lot of things. And this time around, and I think it's because it's more serious to me. I think when we first got married, it was more so we both kind of had an ideal, and I didn't feel the need to tell you about because honestly, I didn't even understand it.
Right.
Because we were in counseling and different things like that too. I've learned a lot in the last 5 years. So
yeah.
I honestly didn't recognize some of my traumas and my hurts and my pain. And I think this time around when we have a disagreement or argument or something, it hits different. And I think and this is the need to know, you need to know why I'm reacting this way and why I'm saying this, because I can't afford to go through that whole unhinged, broken thing again, and I won't.
Yeah.
So once you know, you're like, oh, this is serious for him, then you're tasked with going, okay, I know these things. These things are triggers. Mm-hmm. Not, and even more so than triggers, there's deep-seated trauma that goes along with if I say this or I do that he finds it this way, then yeah, that's going to be problematic.
Right. So you believe this time around we know each other a lot more than
I believe this time around you know me better. I don't think, and we've been through this before, you're growing and learning and kind of growing into, a person you've never been. However, you don't have if somebody asks me, like, what traumas and pain has Faith been through, I'm going to say our divorce was probably the most traumatic thing you've ever been through, but I don't know that. So sometimes I feel like I'm being disingenuous when I say, what do you care about, or what really matters to you? Because
right,
I don't.
And I think you've said that multiple times, and I feel like it confuses me and it hurts me a little bit. Like, I don't think it's your fault that you don't know those things because I don't know what it is about me. So that's something that I've tried to figure out how to help you understand those things, because I'm like, it's kind of crappy if someone asks you, what is your wife like? All you have to do is answer Disney. You don't know anything else. Like, that's kind of crappy. It makes
I didn't even mention Disney just now.
So, but I mean, exactly. But that's what you've said in the past. And it's just, it's very interesting. And I don't know how to, I think there must be something.
Oh, no, I know. See, I understand this now.
That kind of,
I understand this better now.
Keeps me locked up.
We talked about this last night. I know better than to just say Disney now. I know that there's some higher ticket items that you care about. Some you care about that'll cause you to unleash your claws. And then there's other ones that you're just more so like have a disagreement with. But you're not really a fighter. You're not really you're not that type of a person. Me,
Right.
so I'll stand on the mountain of my passions and understanding, and I will debate and fight, and that's
Yeah.
just who I've always been. For you, you're just like, if a cause is something that you agree with or you disagree with, you're like, I agree or disagree, but it's usually not that impassioned. So for me, it's like when we joke about you and food, like how I smell and different stuff. I was like, well, if I smelled like meatloaf and mashed potatoes, you would love it more than 1,005 different scents that everybody else loves, and I gotta crawl up on you for you to notice it. But it's just I have a better understanding of you now because you've exhibited different stuff, and honestly, a lot of it comes from me poking and prodding at you and you reacting. Like, I know that when I lost the car, that bothered you, but you didn't get upset the way somebody else would. But I know that bothered you. Have I even been out since then?
No.
Like, because I understand that what I did caused you caused you to look at me funny. Now it gives you one of the things in your little empty piggy bank to say, remember when you lost the car? And I'm just like, babe, like, I got a whole Bitcoin over here of stuff for you, so let's just stop. But once I learn and I understand these things really matter to you, then I won't do it. Certain stuff with how I mention my past, and you're like, don't do this and don't do it this way. So I've learned how to navigate, and I just say whatever I feel because you do feel some type of way about it. And I have to learn how to circumnavigate that, even though to me it's easier just to kind of say what I feel. But I didn't always take your feelings into consideration because you didn't say anything. You just
Right.
kind of took it. And I didn't think it was okay. But I'm like, well, if it really bothers you, you would say something.
Yeah.
And so it took a while for you to say something about that and a few other things. So now I understand you do care about stuff. It's just, I think it has to hit you enough for you to care about it enough to say something.
Yeah. That's true. And I think it kind of leads into what I was getting at. Like, do you feel like, now that you feel like you know me a little bit better, do you feel like it's helped our relationship in other aspects?
Yes, because now I don't hold you at fault for stuff. So it's funny because I wanted to do a podcast. The next podcast is going to be more sexual in nature. And one of the things that I've kind of learned and come to the conclusion of, even for myself, is that how we deal with certain stuff in our life, in our household, I can't hold you at fault if you had a long day and you're tired, and you don't want to do anything but sit down. Like, you don't want to wash a dish, you don't want to sweep the floor, you don't want to do anything. I can't hold you at fault for that because everyone experiences that. So even though I might go, why are dishes in the sink? Why is this not done? Why is this not done? At the same time, I have to understand you're a human being, you're a person. And sometimes you just want to relax. And here's what I understand even more so. It's going to get done.
Right.
And before it wasn't like, and I think we even had the conversation where you're like, does it matter if it gets done now or that it gets done at all?
Right.
And I think for me, sometimes it's dependent on how my day went.
Yeah.
If I had a long day and I walk in and things are in slight disarray, I'm just kind of like, because for me, I have to do certain things and I feel like all I do is work and all I do is like shopping. Like, I just went, you're like, why'd you do? I went shopping, so I don't feel like I just worked all day.
Yeah.
So it's like if I come in and the place is clean and certain stuff is taken care of, I feel better. I don't feel like there's anything I need to do. Like, even though I know you'll get to the dishes, I'm like, should I wash them? I can wash them. That'll make me feel better.
Yeah.
And I had to learn to kind of let that go and then trust that you would do it, and then you would then do it.
And in return, I feel like me knowing you a little bit more this time around has helped me because I don't have those days where I will just come right in and do nothing anymore. Like, most of the time, if I see the dishes, I will just do them before I lose momentum. Like, if I come in and sit down, then I'm done.
Right.
So I will do everything right away and then sit down because otherwise they won't get done that day.
And that's allowed me to leave you alone about stuff, because there's been times where you come in and start doing the dishes. I'm like, you don't have to do that right now. You know, I gotta wash them. Like, I have to do this. And I'm like, no, like, just do this other thing. Like, babe, I gotta get this done now. And I can respect it different because now it's a thing that you understand why it matters to me, and so now I think it matters to you.
Yeah.
If it just mattered to me, you can do, and that's the difference. There are certain things that just matter to me and slowly start mattering to you.
Yeah.
Because they matter to you, and then there's other things that's like they matter to you only because they matter to me. And in a marriage, that could be very difficult to navigate because you kind of want the things that matter to you to matter to the other person equally, and that's just not true. So you have to understand that there's going to be situations, and you have to understand what those situations are. Otherwise, you can really it creates some dark moments because you're like, I want this, and why don't you want this particular thing as much as me? And it's like, oh well, I want this because you want it. When it really comes down to it, at our core, we don't want someone to do something for us just because they think that's what we want them to do. We really want them to do it because that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
If I bought you flowers and you go, I know you just did this because you know I like flowers. Yeah, but I like actually giving you the flowers. I like how you look. I like how you receive them. That's different than because you receive that different. It's like, oh, and it's two-way. It's a win-win. And most people are looking for win-win. So whenever that can happen, it's important. But it's also important to understand everything doesn't matter equally, and you can't fault your significant other for that.
Yeah, and knowing your spouse or your significant other will help you navigate their triggers. It'll help you navigate around their why for things. So why does he care about these things? Knowing a little bit about his past and how he was raised, I kind of can figure out why a clean house is important to him because it wasn't that clean when he was growing up. So that's something like, okay, this is why. And it helps to kind of put a something tangible behind something that, like, I'm fine with a little bit of clutter, a little bit of mess. Like, it's not that big of a deal to me. But for him, it's a trigger. So
not as much, because like right now I'm looking at the pictures on the wall, and I can't wait to move because that's not going to be that way. And the clutter on my desk, like I learned we have smaller space and we have more stuff. So I've had to learn to not be as meticulous and as neurotic because it doesn't help anyone.
Right.
But my standards are, and everyone knows this is my standard. And instead of me arguing a point or getting upset or yelling or demeaning or anything like that, this is my standard. And
yeah, and it's it kind of brings me up to the next little point that we were kind of talking about before we started videoing. It's like knowing your person's why will also help you know if they make a statement or if they say something, do they want something to be done or do they just want to make the statement? So we were talking about, for example, if I said it's cold, like I could just be making a statement that I'm cold, or I could be like, I need him to turn the thermostat up, or I would like his coat, depending on where we are. Like if we're out somewhere and about and I didn't dress appropriately and I'm like, it's cold, then do I want to leave where we are and go somewhere else? Or do I just need his coat or something like that? So knowing me, he'll know what to do.
But funny enough, knowing me, typically you wouldn't be in those situations because I over prepared typically.
Yeah.
So you've learned to, if we're going to the movies, you typically, even if it's a nice day, you'll typically grab a sweater or something like that because the movies can get cold. If we're going now, the one thing that we tend to still not be on the same page about, you know what am I going to say? Let's see how well we know each other. What am I going to say? It's something I keep telling you should do and you just won't do it. It involves date night specifically.
Bringing flats?
Yes. There you go. See, you do know. Yeah. Bringing flats or like sandals or something like that for like.
But then I would just have to have a bigger purse.
No, if you have like little cheapy flats that you could just slide your shoes out of and just put them. A lot of women, I don't know if you notice, a lot of women do that. And you're just like, I'm just going to be uncomfortable. Like, I'm glad I wore these. Well, how many times did you say, I'm glad you picked these shoes out for me?
Probably 5 or 6.
Yes. Now, thank God I picked those shoes.
Because they were comfortable.
Yes, but if you pick one of the other shoes, I'd have probably been having to hold you, stand up like, I ain't signed up for this.
Yep.
So, but it's a little thing. But understanding that when those things happen, if she was standing there, her feet hurt, you want to know what? I look at her and I laugh, and she knows for a fact, I'm not being a jerk, but she knows what I'm thinking and what I'm going to say. It's like, you should have listened to me. Like, and that's it. And I'm like, I don't feel bad about it because I'm like, I told you. And so hopefully the next time she'll see, okay, I see why he's always like this. And that's what's happened with us in a lot of ways where I've done stuff enough times in a certain way where it eventually hits her and it's like, oh, crap. Okay. Like the washing machine. Now, I don't know when you're going to, you was like, when I put the thing up there and I said, I don't want you to hit your head. You're like, oh, I hit my head on it all the time. And I'm just like, at what point are you going to, It's gonna be when you walk up.
Yeah, it's never that bad.
It's gonna be when it is too bad, and I hope it ain't too bad that this relationship can't sustain because you gotta the part in your head is permanent, you know. But I'm like, these are the things that comes with knowing a person. So she knows enough about me. She'll say there was something that happened the other day, and I didn't even say anything. You looked at me and said, "Shut up," because I guess you thought I was going to say something, and I was like, Arabella did it this morning. She got in the car and she was like, before you even ask or no, she said, don't ask. There's a reason why all my clothing is mismatched. I said, first of all, that's not the way that you say it to your father. I said, and second of all, I know why it's mismatch day for school, but I said, I get it. But she understands, she knows I'm going to look at her appearance and I'm going to say, why? So before that, she'll look, you ever see her when I get up and she like her eyes go, is he going to say something about my dress or is he going to, like she cringes because she's waiting for me to say something. And a lot of times now I just go, unless it's like a short dress or something crazy, I'm like, because you'll deal with the consequences of it. And that's kind of what happens with us. It's like, I know the consequences. I'm the least talked to person in this situation. I know the consequences of my actions. I've lived them. You guys, well, you kind of have, but you guys on a day-to-day basis only have to deal with my freaking mouth. That's it. You're like, and you guys tend to just probably just, That's typically what you guys do. So it's like, it doesn't impact you until there's an actual consequence, which doesn't happen because I freaking love you people. And because I love you, I'm always around. You're like, oh, he's going to be around. Look, he's mad. Watch him. He's going to give us a hug and a kiss. I got him. But when I don't, you guys understand there's a difference between I walk out this door, kiss, love you both, or I walk out the door and don't say nothing. It gets, oh, shoot. Yesterday I left. I did not say a word to anyone. Arabella, oh, dad left. He's upset. Because she understood I was upset and why I was upset. She always understands when I'm upset, but she understands it's different when I'm just like, I need to be away from y'all.
She didn't know why you were upset.
Oh, no, she knew why I was upset. But that's what I'm saying. The causality of it is she understood it because we were there. I was frustrated with her and just kids in general. But because of what I try to instill in her so she can understand me, I said all this work for nothing because you're not willing to do the work for anything that you want. And I said it has to start at some point. And she's like, I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do this, and I don't want to sing, and I don't want to be in a choir, but I want you to give me voice lessons. And I'm like, you want me to spend all this money for voice lessons so you can learn how to sing, and you're not ever going to sing any place where you should be singing? Yeah, I don't want to do these. I don't want to. And I'm like, you're wackadoo. You're wackadoo. But anyway, back on the...
Anyway, so then the last little thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was, is there anything you feel like you want to explore more about getting to know me or us getting to know each other?
Sex.
In what aspect?
All of it. All the sex. I want all the sex.
So we don't know each other when it comes to sex?
We'll save that for the other podcast. But honestly, when it comes to, no. It's not. But no, I'm being serious. Sex. There's some exploration there. And I think more so for you to be more fluid about how you feel about stuff and how you really frame it and how it's importance to you specifically, not to us. Its importance to you and how you deal with your own sexuality. Other than that, we talked about the baby thing. I think you might have a better understanding of my position on that now than you have before, because I think I broke it. I think for you, a lot of times you heard it one way where it sounds like, you know what, that's not what you want. And I believe that now you might understand, like, okay, it's not that you don't want it, it's that I want a certain house. There's a very specific house I would like to have. I know that the resources that are available to us right now, even if I could get, remember my old car, my Chrysler 300? When I first bought it, I had the resources to take care of that large note and everything that happened with it. Then it became an albatross around my neck later in life for a lot of different reasons. And because the resources changes, everything changed, and I ended up losing it. And what happens is that changed a lot about me because I love that car. That just like when I bought my first house, I love my house and I lost my house. Once again, like knowing these things, it helps you understand the traumas that I've been through and why I look at things a very specific way where I'm just like, okay, today things are okay, but what happens? And it's just the process of going through these what ifs because I don't want, like, we can't, we can't give a baby back. We can't give a child back. Like, you see, like, how my relationship is with Arabella and by default with you and all, and what that means for us, like knowing each other, date nights and all that stuff becomes lesser than even this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These things can't persist because we might have we might always have a little buddy in the frame with us because that's what's necessary during the time that we have to do these things. So that just getting you to a point maybe where you feel more comfortable diving into life a little more. I think from what you said yesterday, I've heard it before, but when you were like, it's just too much stuff going on, this is why I stay away from it. I get it. And it helps me understand you better more when you go, you know what, it's too much misinformation, it's too much information, what do I believe? It drives me nuts. I know because it drives me nuts. It's just, I care enough to keep digging a little bit further because being knowledgeable and understanding stuff is like of the utmost importance to me.
Right.
So knowing what's of the utmost importance to you, it matters because I still don't know that.
And it's funny because that's the other little thing is just knowing how far, like knowing each other helps to know how far you can push and still be okay.
That's something I've definitely learned.
How far can you push before it becomes a problem?
Yes. And I think I have a better understanding of you in that regard than me because sometimes you'll ask a question and I think you really are genuinely asking something. But to me, I'm like, you don't understand this. And then when I give a response, your reaction to that response is like, you shouldn't even have asked the question anyway because you're not willing to accept the answer that I gave. So I'm just like, why did you ask if you really don't want to know? And then I think sometimes that might make you go, well, I don't want to ask a question because I don't want to really deal with the truth of the matter. Because I do, as harsh as I can seem sometimes, I shield you guys from so much because I understand the harsh realities of life. If I turned around at any given day and you saw the arrows and knives in my back, you'd be like, how are you still alive? That's my job. I got to shield you guys from some stuff. But every now and then, y'all got to catch an arrow in the ass. Just so y'all can understand, oh, snap. Because if y'all don't understand it, at no point can you actually really make full-on, well-rounded decisions because you're just like, oh, there's no arrows out here. There's no knives in the back. There's nothing in opposition of us. But then I move aside and it's like, oh, snap. And you don't know how to react to it. So, or you know how to react to it based off of what you think. And you'll get into an environment or a situation where you're not fully understanding, like, this is not the best way to handle this. Like, and those things are to be understood where it's like we can ask each other questions and say stuff in a safe space. What did I say yesterday about me having a safe space? Because I can be honest about anything, but who I'm speaking to, they might not be willing to accept what I'm saying, and then somehow, some way, it turns into an argument when I can't tell you how you feel. But if you tell me how you feel and I get upset because of how you feel, that's not fair to you because it's how you feel. Yeah. Now, if you told me I'm not doing something and you're saying, babe, I feel like you don't listen to me, and I'm like, well, in what ways don't I listen to you? And you go, well, I don't have any examples. I don't know. I just feel like that. Well, then I'm not going. There's no quarter I'm going to give you for that because I'm like, well, unless you can give me an example or tell me of an occasion or a time where I do this, how can I help that? Because I don't know. It's just your feelings, and that's another topic we're going to do. But feelings, I feel. How often we have discussion and you go, I feel. Well, I feel you said this, and I feel you. How often do I say that? I don't speak in terms of my feelings. I speak in terms of this is what was said, this is what was done, and you're like, well. Yeah, but I feel it's like you just glaze over that part. And so that understanding that and that accountability on your side, I think you have. I can see it in your eyes more because the way your body language a lot of times will present, I don't want to listen. I don't want to hear this. I'm not listening. But then there's times I'll say something and I pay very close attention to when I'm very pointed with you and you're like looking down and I'll say something and you're like, look up. And I can see it in your face like, something was just jostled, and now you have a better understanding, or I said something in a way that you didn't hear it before, you didn't receive it before, maybe I never said it that way, and it's like, oh, now that makes more sense to me. And I've learned that about you. Like, I can say something very straightforward to you, and you'll say, But I don't understand that. And I'm like, I broke it down to the lowest common denominator. How don't you understand it? Mm-hmm. And then I'll say it in a different way. And a lot of times, guys, I got to shoot my own self in the foot so that she can see me be hurt so that she feels less hurt. I've learned that too. And that part sucks because there's times where I got to circumvent the situation and go, yeah, I mess up or I've messed up 10 years ago doing this. And then it brings to the forefront because sometimes it looks like I'm not perfect, but I'm not as fallible as other people. That's because I've screwed up a lot. I've had to get through a bunch of crap. So when I say, well, I've made this mistake and this is how, and it's like, oh, so you used to mess up like this. And I'm like, yes. It becomes a lot easier for her to go, oh, Mega Man, you're not that, like, it, yeah, like, it sucks in the moment because it's like, why did I have to go back to find something that you can just say? But for some people, it's like that. I know how I can come across for a lot of people, and I have for years. So it's difficult for people to hear something unless they know very specifically what I've done and my downfalls sometimes to help them get up.
Yeah. Okay, that's all the time we have for today. That was a nice, fun conversation.
Yeah, we might revisit that to dive in a little bit deeper in a different, because this was your topic, but it actually was. I wanted to get more into the stranger aspect of it.
Yes.
I want
to get into the fact that y'all aren't commenting, you're not sharing, you're not doing anything to help us.
Where'd this finger come from? I thought I did something wrong.
We want you people out there in YouTube land.
Oh my God.
To talk to us so that we know more about what you want us to talk about. And do you want to come on and talk with us? Because we want to do more interviews with people.
Show me the finger again. No, with the sleeve on it. I didn't know. That's kind of sexy and scary. I like it. Just put the finger.
Anyway, so just freaking comment, people. Okay. Do you have anything else to say?
No, as she said.
Until next time.
What the hell's going on? I did marry a stranger. She's becoming somebody else.
Go ahead.
Keep your faith strong.
And maintain justice.
Your
Bye.
justice.
Yes, your justice. Oh my goodness. We never get it right.
You never get it right.
You don't either.